The night was cold. Rain poured heavily over the empty streets of Seoul, the city lights reflecting off the wet asphalt. Expensive cars rushed by, people too busy to notice anything around them, except one car. A sleek black car suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. Inside sat Kim Tae-hyung, the youngest billionaire CEO in the country, known for his cold personality, sharp business mind, and eyes that made grown executives tremble. His driver looked confused. Sir, why did you ask me to stop? Tae-hyung didn't answer. His sharp gaze was fixed on the side of the road. Someone was lying there. Small figure. Rain soaked the person's clothes completely. Their body coiled slightly like they had collapsed from exhaustion. Taehyung frowned. Normally he would ignore it. He didn't get involved in useless matters. But something felt wrong. Wait here, Taehyung said coldly as he opened the car door. The rain immediately drenched his expensive suit as he walked toward the figure. When he got closer, he realized it was a boy, a very beautiful boy. Soft pale skin, long wet eyelashes, delicate features that looked almost unreal. The boy looked young, fragile, like he didn't belong on the cruel streets. Taehyung crouched beside him. Hey, no response. He gently turned the boy's face. Cold, too cold. Taehyung's brow tightened. Unconscious? The boy's lips were pale and slightly trembling. Without thinking further, Taehyung immediately took off his coat and wrapped it around the small body. Then he lifted the boy into his arms. The driver's eyes widened when Taehyung returned carrying someone. Sir? Open the door. Yes, sir. Taehyung carefully placed the boy on the back seat. For a second, the boy shifted slightly and weakly grabbed Taehyung's sleeve. Don't leave. The voice was barely a whisper. Taehyung froze. Something strange stirred inside his chest. He looked at the unconscious boy again. Drive to the hospital. The driver nodded quickly and the car sped off. Rain continued pouring outside. Inside the car, the boy unconsciously moved closer, his head resting against Taehyung's shoulder. Taehyung looked down at him, troublesome. He muttered, but he didn't push him away. Instead, he gently adjusted the coat around the boy to keep him warm. For the first time in years, the cold CEO didn't feel like pushing someone away. At the hospital, hours later, the doctor walked out of the room. Taehyung stood there with his usual cold expression. How is he? The doctor sighed. He fainted from exhaustion and hunger and mild hypothermia. Taehyung's eyes darkened. Hunger? Yes, judging by his condition, he probably hadn't eaten properly in days. Taehyung glanced through the glass window. Inside the room, the boy slept peacefully on the hospital bed, looking much smaller now. Fragile, lonely, Taehyung suddenly spoke. When he wakes up, he is coming with me. The doctor blinked. With you? Taehyung turned away. He was lying on my road. His tone was calm. So he is my responsibility now. Inside the room, the boy slowly opened his eyes. Soft, doughy eyes looked around the unfamiliar room. Where am I? And outside the door, Kim Taehyung was about to unknowingly bring the biggest chaos of his life home. Taehyung slowly walked into the hospital room. The boy had finally woken up. He looked small on the large hospital bed, blanket clutched tightly in his hands. Big watery eyes looking around the unfamiliar room, scared, lost. Taehyung's chest tightened for a moment before he walked closer and sat beside the bed. His deep voice softened slightly. I'm Taehyung. I found you on the road unconscious. I brought you to the hospital. Jungkook blinked at him with wide eyes. Taehyung continued gently. Can you tell me why you were there? The boy's lip trembled, then slowly his eyes filled with tears. He sniffled softly, body shaking. Cookie ran away from home. Taehyung's brows furrowed. Jungkook continued in a small, broken voice. Cookie, not like there. Uncle hit Cookie. Cookie hurt. Cookie sad. The words were simple, childish, but they hit Taehyung's heart like a knife. His chest clenched painfully. He didn't even know this boy. Yet, hearing him say he was hurt made something inside Taehyung ache. Without thinking, Taehyung reached forward and gently wiped Jungkook's tear. It's okay, Cookie. His voice was low but reassuring. Now no one will hurt you. Jungkook looked up at him. I will protect you. Jungkook sniffled again before slowly leaning closer to him. Really? Taehyung nodded softly. Really? Jungkook suddenly pouted a little. Taehyung blinked before realizing the boy was trying to say his name. A small chuckle escaped him. It's Taehyung. Jungkook tried again. He struggled adorably and failed again. Taehyung couldn't stop the smile that appeared on his face. You know what? Jungkook looked at him curiously. Just call me Tae. Jungkook's face immediately lighted up like a little child receiving candy. Okay, Tae. Taehyung felt his heart soften again. At the moment the doctor walked inside. Good news, he can be discharged now. Jungkook immediately looked scared. His small hands grabbed Taehyung's shirt tightly as he moved closer. Cookie is scared. Taehyung gently pulled him closer. It's okay. Then he asked softly, Cookie wanna go home with Tae? Jungkook looked up at him, those big doughy eyes full of trust. Then he nodded softly. Go with Tae. Taehyung didn't know it yet, but the moment he decided to take this fragile boy home, his quiet, cold life was about to become full of chaos, warmth, and a very clingy little bunny. Taehyung carried Jungkook out of the hospital carefully, one hand steady on the boy's back so he wouldn't stumble. Jungkook stayed very close to him, almost glued to his side. His small hand tightly held the sleeve of Taehyung's coat, like if he let go, Taehyung might disappear. Outside the rain had stopped. The black luxury car was already waiting. The driver quickly opened the door, but the moment Jungkook saw the tall man and the dark car, he froze. His grip on Taehyung tightened. Cookie no like strangers. Taehyung looked down at him. The boy was almost hiding behind his arm. It's okay, Taehyung said calmly. He works for me. He won't hurt you. Jungkook peeked slyly at the driver. The driver, who had never seen his cold CEO bring someone home before, immediately softened his expression. Hello. Jungkook quickly hid his face again. Taehyung sighed softly, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Come on, Cookie. He guided him into the car. The moment they sat down, Jungkook immediately scooted closer until their shoulders touched. Taehyung noticed, but he didn't move away. Instead, he simply said to the driver, "Drive." The car began moving through the city lights. Jungkook looked out the window with wide, curious eyes, like a small child seeing everything for the first time. But after a few minutes, his stomach made loud noise. Jungkook immediately covered his stomach with both hands. Jungkook pouted while his cheeks dusted pink. Taehyung raised an eyebrow. "Hungry?" Jungkook looked embarrassed and nodded slowly. Cookie didn't eat. Taehyung felt that strange tightness in his chest again. He opened a small compartment in the car and took out the snack box his security had packed earlier. Inside were strawberries and small sandwiches. He held one strawberry toward Jungkook. "Here." Jungkook blinked. "For Cookie?" Taehyung nodded. Jungkook carefully took it and took a small bite. His eyes suddenly sparkled. "Sweet." Taehyung couldn't stop the small smile that appeared. Jungkook happily ate another strawberry, then another. Soon his cheeks puffed adorably while chewing. "Slow down," Taehyung said lightly. Jungkook nodded but still stuffed another piece into his mouth. The driver secretly looked through the mirror. He almost fainted. Their cold CEO feeding someone strawberries. If the company directors saw this, they would collapse. Soon the car stopped. They had arrived at Taehyung's mansion. The huge gate slowly opened. Jungkook's eye became huge. Oh, the mansion was enormous, lights glowing warmly across the large building. The car stopped in front of the entrance. Taehyung stepped out first. Then he held his hand toward Jungkook. "Cookie, come." Jungkook climbed out of the car, but the moment he saw the huge mansion up close, he froze again. "Big." He suddenly grabbed Taehyung's arm tightly. Cookie scared. Taehyung looked down at him, the giant CEO building millions of dollars worth, yet the boy was scared of it. Taehyung gently placed a hand on Jungkook's head. "It's okay." Then he spoke softly. "Tai is here." Jungkook looked up at him. "Really?" Taehyung nodded. "Yes." Jungkook relaxed a little and nodded back, then softly said, "Okay, Cookie, go with Tai." Taehyung led him inside. The staff inside the mansion immediately bowed. "Welcome home, sir." They stopped mid-sentence because their CEO was holding the hand of a grown man who looked like a scared child. Jungkook peeked at them nervously and quickly hid half behind Taehyung. Taehyung ignored their shocked expressions. "Prepare a room," he ordered calmly. Then he looked down at Jungkook. "But first," Jungkook blinked. "You need food." Jungkook's eye lighted up again. "Food?" Taehyung chuckled quietly. "Yes, Cookie." And just like that, the cold, quiet mansion that had always been silent was about to become filled with tiny footsteps, soft giggles, and one very clingy little bunny. After dinner, Taehyung personally fed Jungkook the rest of the food. Jungkook sat quietly at the dining table, swinging his legs slightly while chewing strawberries happily. Every few bites he would look at Taehyung like he was making sure Tai was still there. Taehyung noticed. "I'm not going anywhere," he said calmly. Jungkook nodded and continued eating. When he finished, Taehyung wiped the corner of Jungkook's lips with a napkin. "Come on, Cookie, let's get you to sleep." Jungkook yawned softly, his eyes already drooping. Taehyung led him upstairs to a large guest room. The room was warm and comfortable with soft lights and a big bed. Jungkook looked around with wide, curious eyes. Pretty. Taehyung pulled the blanket back and helped him climb onto the bed. Sleep here tonight. Jungkook immediately grabbed Taehyung's sleeve again. You stay? Taehyung gently patted his head. I will be nearby. Jungkook looked unsure, but the sleepiness was too strong. He slowly curled up under the blanket. Within minutes, his breathing became soft and even. Taehyung watched him for a moment. The boy looked peaceful now. No fear, no terrors, just a small sleeping bunny. Taehyung quietly turned off the lamp and stepped outside in the hallway. He called his secretary. Sir, Taehyung's expression returned to its usual calm seriousness. Find everything about Jungkook, he ordered. His family, his uncle, where he lived, everything. The secretary nodded. Yes, sir. Taehyung then walked to his one bedroom. The large room was silent, just like it had always been. He lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling for a moment. Then a small smile appeared on his face. After living alone his whole life, working endlessly, coming back to an empty mansion every night, tonight felt different because somewhere in this big house there was a boy, small, cute, innocent, and somehow already important. Taehyung slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep. Sometime around midnight, Taehyung suddenly felt something heavy on his chest. He frowned slightly and opened his eyes and froze. Jungkook was lying on top of him, completely sprawled across his chest like a sleepy koala. His face was pressed against Taehyung's shoulder, lips slightly parted while breathing softly. Fast asleep, Taehyung blinked in confusion. Then he looked at the door. It was slightly open. Taehyung sighed quietly. He could easily imagine what happened. Jungkook probably woke up in the unfamiliar room, looked around, realized Tae wasn't there, pouted, then waddled out of the room with sleepy eyes, rubbing them with his hands. Tae? He probably searched the hallway until he found Taehyung's room, then climbed onto the bed and finally settled right on top of him like this. Taehyung looked down at the sleeping boy. Jungkook suddenly shifted slightly, hugging Taehyung shirt in his sleep. Tae? Taehyung's heart softened again. He gently placed a hand on Jungkook's back so he wouldn't fall. Troublesome bunny, he murmured quietly, but his voice held no annoyance, only warmth, and within minutes, Taehyung fell asleep again, this time with a warm little bed peacefully sleeping on his chest. Morning sunlight slowly filled Taehyung's bedroom. Taehyung shifted slightly in his sleep, then suddenly frowned. Something felt weight on his chest. His eyes slowly opened and he froze. Jungkook was still lying on top of him, sleeping peacefully with a small line of drool on Taehyung's shirt. Taehyung blinked, then a tiny squeak escaped him. Ah! But instead of being annoyed, Taehyung just stared at Jungkook's sleepy face, messy hair, soft pouty lips, completely knocked out like a baby. Taehyung couldn't help thinking, he is totally a baby. His expression softened. He gently tapped Jungkook's shoulder. Cookie, wake up. Jungkook whined softly, nuzzling deeper into Taehyung's chest. Mm, no. Taehyung chuckled quietly. Cookie. Jungkook slowly opened his eyes. They were still half sleepy. He blinked at Taehyung. then immediately mumbled, Tai Tai, Ku hungry. Taehyung smiled at the nickname. Okay. He carefully sat up with Jungkook still on his lap. Tai Tai will cook. Then he added, but first you need to change clothes. Jungkook immediately pouted. I know how to. Taehyung almost laughed. It's okay. He walked to his closet and searched for something small. But Taehyung was tall and broad. Even the smallest clothes he wanted were still big. He finally picked a loose shirt and sweatpants. When Jungkook wore them, he was completely drowned in the clothes. The shirt almost reached his thigh and the sleeves covered half his hands. Taehyung stared. Cute. Jungkook blinked. They walked to the kitchen together. Taehyung lifted Jungkook and placed him on the kitchen counter. Sit here. Jungkook obediently sat there, legs swinging gently like a very good child. Taehyung started making pancakes. After a few minutes, he glanced at Jungkook. The boy was still sitting quietly in the exact same position, not moving, not touching anything, just watching. Taehyung raised an eyebrow. Cookie? Jungkook blinked. Yes, Tai Tai. Taehyung flipped the pancake in the pan. Why are you sitting so still? Jungkook tilted his head. Why, Tai Tai? Taehyung shrugged slightly. I thought you were just a baby. Jungkook watched him quietly. Taehyung continued casually. Babies are chaotic. He flipped another pancake. They scream, they yell, they run around, they win. He glanced at Jungkook. I thought you had been like that too. Jungkook looked down at his hands, his fingers fidgeting with the sleeve of the oversized shirt. His voice became very small. But Ku, get real if Ku do that. Taehyung froze. The spatula in his hand stopped moving. For a moment his chest filled with anger, not at Jungkook, at someone else. That bastard uncle. What kind of person scares a child so badly that he's afraid to even act like a kid? Taehyung turned off the stove. Then he walked over and gently pulled Jungkook into a hug. Jungkook stiffened for a moment before relaxing into him. Taehyung rubbed his back softly. But baby, his voice was gentle. You are with me now. Jungkook sniffled slightly. You can do anything. Taehyung pulled back just enough to look at him. I won't yell at you, okay? Jungkook eye filled with tears again. Really, Tai Tai? Taehyung smiled and nodded. Really? Jungkook slowly smiled too, a small sigh smile. And for the first time, his legs started swinging freely on the counter again. The morning in Taehyung's mansion was quiet, except for the soft swaying of Jungkook's leg on the counter as he happily munched on pancakes Taehyung had just cooked. Taehyung watched him with a soft smile, brushing back stray hair from Jungkook's face. His heart felt so warm seeing this little, shy, happy boy in his home. Just as Taehyung leaned back to enjoy the moment, the door swung open. Tai Tai, you won't believe. Taehyung rolled his eyes immediately. It was Jimin, his ever-cheerful assistant. Jimin's eye fell on Jungkook, perched on the counter in oversized clothes, legs swinging, cheeks still sticky with syrup. Oh, Jimin cooed. Jungkook froze. His small hands clutched Taehyung's shirt immediately. Scared, he whispered, pouting. Taehyung frowned, then gently pulled Jimin closer by his shirt. Don't scare my baby. Jimin froze mid-step, eyes wide. Oh, he is your baby already, huh? He said with a teasing grin. Jungkook slowly peeked from behind Taehyung's arm, eyes wide and cautious. Jimin crouched slightly and pulled out a chocolate donut from his bag. Want it? Jungkook's eyes light up like a little child discovering a treasure. Quickly, he nodded and reached out. Jimin smiled softly and handed it to him. Baby, I'm cooking pancake too. Jungkook immediately stuffed the donut into his mouth. His cheeks puffed adorably. I will eat that too, Tai, he declared between bites. Jimin laughed quietly at the sight. Taehyung couldn't help but smile, shaking his head as he returned to feeding Jungkook a fresh pancake he had just cooked. After breakfast, Jungkook, full and sleepy, was gently laid on the couch, his little body curled up comfortably under a blanket, and soon he was taking a soft nap. Taehyung straightened and turned to Jimin, voice calm but serious. Did you bring what I told you to? Jimin nodded, pulling a file from his bag and handing it over. Taehyung skimmed through it, his expression darkening with each page. His jaw tightened. Jungkook's parents had died in an accident, and the boy had been left in the care of his uncle, who was a drunkard, who had beaten him often, who had scared him so much that Jungkook had retreated into little space. Taehyung's hand clenched around the file. He glanced down at the sleeping boy, whose small chest rose and fell gently on the couch. His little face, soft and innocent, unaware of the harsh world he had escaped. Taehyung's lip pressed into a thin line. Who would hurt a little bunny like this? He muttered quietly. Jimin stepped closer, putting a hand on Taehyung's shoulder. He's lucky he has you now, Tae. Taehyung looked down at Jungkook again. A soft but protective smile. For me. Yes, he whispered. No one will ever hurt him again. And for the first time in years, the cold CEO felt something stir inside him. Something warm, protective, and completely devoted to this little, shy, happy bunny. From that day on, Taehyung's sleep changed completely. He let Jungkook do whatever he wanted. If Jungkook wanted pancakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Taehyung made them. If he wanted to run around the mansion in oversized clothes, Tae made sure the hallways were safe. If he wanted to sit in Taehyung's lap while watching TV, Tae didn't complain. Jungkook slowly started to get closer to him. He would cling to Tae when scared, hide behind him when shy, and giggle endlessly when Taehyung played little teasing games. One afternoon, Taehyung had a surprise for him. He led Jungkook into a room and slowly opened the door. Jungkook's eye went wide. The room was filled with pussies. Big ones, small ones, colorful ones, soft ones, every type of stuffed animal imaginable. Tai, Jungkook whispered. Taehyung smiled softly. Surprise for you. Jungkook's tiny hands flew to hug the nearest pussy, then another. Then he looked up at Taehyung, his eyes sparkling. Dada, I so happy. You love pussy. Taehyung froze. Did he just call me Dada? For the first time, Jungkook had used that word with him. Taehyung's chest tightened. He kneeled down to be at Jungkook's level. Baby, he said gently, call me that again. Jungkook tilted his head, confused. What? Taehyung's lip curved into a soft, warm smile. Call me Dada. Again. Jungkook's cheek flushed, his little fingers forgetting with the pussy in his hand. Dada, Tai, he whispered shyly. Taehyung pulled him into a tight hug, holding him close. That's right, baby. Dada is here. Jungkook buried his face into Tae's chest, hugging him back tightly. That night, after the little boy had fallen asleep on the bed, soft breath rising and falling, Taehyung stayed awake, looking at him. His hand gently rested on Jungkook's tiny shoulder. Bunny, he whispered softly, voice low and protective. You are mine now. No one will ever hurt you again. He paused, letting the words sink in. And that bastard uncle of yours? He is in jail now. He will never get to you again. Jungkook stirred slightly in his sleep, a tiny smile on his lips, safe and unaware of the dark past behind him. Taehyung's heart clenched with a mixture of protectiveness and the warmth. I will always protect you, Bunny. Always. He stayed there quietly, letting the soft rise and fall of Jungkook's breathing calm him, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, complete, unshakable devotion to someone so small and precious, his little bunny. It had been 5 months since Jungkook came to live with Taehyung. 5 months of cuddles, giggles, side smiles, and mischievous little adventures. And today, Jungkook was being the naughtiest little bunny Taehyung had ever met. He was running around the kitchen like a whirlwind, legs barely keeping up with his own excitement. Bunny, stop! Taehyung called, chasing him with mock exasperation. Jungkook squealed, dodging around the countess. I know one with babies. Babies yucky. He whined loudly, tiny arms flailing dramatically. Taehyung sighed, a small smile tugging at his lips despite the chaos. Bunny, he said, crouching slightly to match Jungkook's height. You need to eat babies. They make you strong. Jungkook stomped a tiny foot. No, I wanted spicy noodles. Taehyung shook his head, laughed softly. You are hopeless, little one, he muttered and lunged forward. Finally, after a short chase around the kitchen, Taehyung scooped Jungkook up into his arms. Sit in Dada's lap, he said gently. Jungkook pouted but away, still crossing his arms and sticking out his bottom lip. Taehyung held him securely, then brought a spoonful of lightly steamed veggies to Jungkook's lip. Open, he said softly. Jungkook winked again. I know. That mean veggies yucky. Taehyung chuckled, brushing the messy hair from Jungkook's face. You are cute even when you are naughty, he muttered, finally with a little huff. Jungkook opened his mouth and ate. He frowned clearly, displeased, but his little body relaxed against Taehyung's chest as he swallowed. See, not so bad, Taehyung said, a small, proud smile on his lips. Jungkook pouted, still muttering, Dada, mean. Taehyung's smile widened. Yes, baby, Dada is mean. When he needs to be, he teased softly, ruffling Jungkook's messy hair. Jungkook giggled quietly, finally finishing the last bite of veggies, and rested his tiny head against Taehyung's chest. Taehyung hugged him tightly. Who is the cutest little bunny in the world? He whispered. Jungkook's sleepy little voice whispered back. Coo? Taehyung pressed a kiss to the top of his head. Yes, Dada's little bunny. That evening, the mansion was quiet except for the soft click of Taehyung's keyboard in his home office. Jungkook, sitting on the couch with his legs swinging, was plotting mischief. After glancing toward Taehyung's office and seeing him busy, Jungkook pulled out his phone. Time for a plan, he whispered. He pressed a few buttons and spoke in his soft little voice. Jiminy Hung, too hungry. But Dada Mini, give me veggie only. Can Jiminy Hung bring spicy noodle for you? Within minutes, Jimin had picked up the phone, already melted by uh, tiny voice. Yes, Bunny, here Jiminy Hung will bring it right away, he said, smiling widely. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Delivery for little bunny. Jimin peeked in, holding a takeout bag. Jungkook's eye went wide. Jiminy Hung, he jumped up, practically gluing himself to Jimin, careful to stay quiet so that I wouldn't notice. Once the spicy noodles were in front of him, Jungkook immediately hugged Jimin silently before digging in with both hands. Happily slurping noodles, Jimin chuckled softly at the adorable sight. Then they both froze. From the stairs, Taehyung was coming down. Jungkook's ear twitched. Panic spread across his tiny face quickly. He grabbed a napkin and tried to wipe the noodle stains from his mouth, only to smear it around further. Taehyung's sharp voice cut through the room. Bunny, what are you eating? Jungkook said, dark eyes glued to the floor. Cool, just sitting like a good boy, he mumbled. Taehyung squinted at him, his expression slowly darkening as he stepped closer. Leslie, he bent down gently, picking Jungkook up. Taehyung's eye widened slightly when he spotted the noodles stain smudged around the little boy's mouth. And what is this, huh? Bunny, Jungkook squeaked, frozen. Jimin, standing behind him, laughed nervously, holding the bag of noodles. I have something to do. I'm leaving, he stammered, backing away quickly. Jungkook, realizing Tae's gaze was sharp now, silently clung tighter to Jimin for a second before Jimin made a hasty exit, leaving Jungkook alone in Tae's arm. Taehyung crossed his arm. One brow raised. Bunny, he said softly but firm. Jungkook whimpered quietly, tiny arms hugging Tae's neck, noodle stain still on his cheeks. Taehyung's lip curved slightly into a smile despite the situation. You are impossible, but his heart completely melted. Taehyung carried over to the couch, carefully laying him across his lap. Jungkook's little body wriggled slightly, already whinny as he sensed what was coming. Bunny, Taehyung murmured, brushing the messy hair from Jungkook's face. Dada needs to remind you, you cannot eat spicy noodles when I said no. Jungkook whimpered softly, pouting, his tiny hands gripping Tae's shirt. With a firm but gentle motion, Taehyung pulled down Jungkook's tiny pants just enough to deliver a light smack to his little bottom. Not to hurt him, just to remind him. Jungkook let out a small squeaky and wriggled. Tae, he protested, soft and whiny. Taehyung chuckled softly, rubbing his hand over Jungkook's bottom after the fifth gentle smack. Bunny, he said gently, spicy food makes your tummy hurt, so why eat it? Sorry, Dada. Jungkook sniffled, big dory eyes looking up at Tae. You will not eat again. Taehyung pulled up Jungkook's pant and immediately hugged him tight, rubbing him slightly. Good Bunny. His voice was soft and full of warmth. Dada loves you, but you need to listen to Dada, okay? Because Dada wants what's best for you. Jungkook nodded quickly, burying his face into Tae's chest. Okay, Dada. Taehyung smiled, pressing a kiss to the top of Jungkook's head. And that night, the little boy slept curled up in Taehyung's arms, warm and safe. Taehyung held him close, listening to his soft, even breaths. They were exactly where they were meant to be, together for each other, safe, loved, and nothing else mattered.